What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Four Tires and Fuel. I am your co-host, Steven Cherrick. I am the rear tire changer on the 38 truck for Front Row Motorsports. And this weekend, I will be doing the rear changer for the 29 Xfinity car for Blaine Perkins.
All right, and I'm John McGee, front tire changer for the 41 truck with Nice Motorsports, driven by Bailey Curry, and the Fit 35 Xfinity car, driven by Joey Gase. And this week, also going to be on the 44 Cup car from New York Racing Team, also driven by Joey Gase as well. So, going to have double duty with him this week. Going to be busy for sure. Me and Steven will be with, as we'll get in later in the episode, but some double travel coming up. First, Friday and Saturday in Daytona, and then Sunday in Milwaukee for the truck and ARCA races. So, yeah, it's that time of the year. I guess this week was the same last year when the travel is always pretty hectic going from these in between these two places.
Yeah, playoff time, baby.
It
Trucks
is.
start the playoffs in Milwaukee.
Yep.
And I think there's only like 2 races. No, actually, I think there's like 6 races left for Xfinity. But yeah, it's fun time of the year.
Yeah, it's we did it last year. You had some good luck up at Milwaukee last year, getting your first win with Grant Enfinger up there. So who knows? Maybe you'll carry that momentum over to this year.
Yeah, that's really what we're hoping for. We're trying to, just keep building off of what we got going on with Lane Riggs and learning everything and just hoping we find victory lane one of these races.
Yeah, it's like I said, Lane is a talented driver, and obviously with the reputation that Front Row has for winning championships and winning races, like if it doesn't happen this year, for sure it's going to happen next year. And I think you guys have been improving. Had a lot of bad luck this year, but it only takes one to have everything come together and finish off the year on a high note for sure. So.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because Scott Riggs, Lane's dad, keeps telling us, he's like, you're working so hard and you're working yourself up so much for this one win, and then you're gonna get it and you're gonna be like, oh, it's all gonna click and you're gonna get that first win, and it should be like, oh, that was so easy.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was stressing out for.
Yeah. It was the same way for me at like when I won with Ross Chastain earlier this year in the truck series at Darlington. It was like, I always saw my friends and other people on pit road winning, and I was like, man, like they can win. I guess I don't know. I guess I don't know if I can win. I don't know if I have what it takes, whatever. And then you get that first win, and you're like, oh yeah, we can do this.
Oh, it was easy.
Yeah. So. Yeah. So, anyways, so so I was up in Michigan this week, doing the ARCA and Xfinity races, and yeah, I don't know. It was ARCA.
It was
race.
as expected.
Yeah, ARCA race was a little unfortunate. I was with the 6 car with Rev Racing, LeVar Scott. Done good amount of races this year with LeVar and the Rev Racing team. I really like those guys over there. They're a great group, and we came into the race at Michigan second overall in the points, and so all we needed was a good finish to keep building on what we've had already accumulated this year. And it was a little weird because the ARCA qualifying got rained out, so they did like a joint practice and qualifying session where basically your fastest practice lap set the grid. And
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, so it was a little weird because a lot of teams had different strategies. The 2 car for Rev started on the pole, and we started in I think 9th place. But when I talked to the guys, they were saying that the 2 car went out and mocked up for a qualifying run. So, they taped everything off, got it all set up, and ran like they would their pressures and stuff like they would for a qualifying run, where the 6 was more focused on long run speed during that practice session. So they were like, we're gonna have a lot of speed. We're better than we qualified, and so yeah, we were ready to move up. And 2 laps into the race, we had a flat, and ended up doing some damage to the front pan of the car on the under the splitter, and ended up doing some damage to some of the body work and that pan, and we ended up having to cut it off and get everything all taped up. And yeah, it ended up costing us 8 laps total, which was
Dang.
which was a real shame, unfortunately. We had to come in a couple times to fix things, and yeah, so that put us obviously behind. But Lavard, at that point, we were just trying to pick off cars that we knew that we were faster than. And there was some crashes. There were just some slow cars that we were eventually going to catch as the race went on. So it's kind of a war of attrition there. And we actually ended up in 15th place at the end of the race, which was actually like a better finish than probably we could have thought at the time. So
Could have been
yeah,
worse.
yeah, exactly. So we did 2 pit stops. We just, did 4 tires, no adjustments, but we were really focused on fixing that damage that happened from the flat. So, you know, did the best we could with that. And unfortunately, like, I think obviously if that wouldn't happen, we could have had a top 5 finish, but we dealt with the situation the best we could, and we ended up finishing up in 15th place. And he had a really good finish in Springfield on the dirt, so that definitely moves us back up to where we should be in the point standings.
There you go.
Yeah, and then Xfinity. I was with the 35 car of Joey Gates Motorsports. We were honestly running our same car from Indy, where we had like a 24th place finish, which for us was pretty competitive. So we were, looking forward to a good finish. And we were running well. We were in the second pack, but we were kind of leading that pack and staying on the lead lap and running good lap times compared to our competitors, the guys who we were racing. Bunch of cars crashed. We were like, it's gonna have a good finish. And then about 35 laps to go, something happened. The engine just kind of blew up. It was either an electrical issue or the engine. Something happened in the engine, but he just wasn't getting any power, and so we had to take it behind the garage and retire the car. I think we ended up finishing in like 31st place, but little unfortunate there because a bunch of cars ended up wadding it up right after that. And if we would have just ran all the laps, I think we honestly could have gotten a pretty solid finish by our standards. But that's racing, and stuff happens, and you got to be there at the end to get the finish you want. So pit stops went fine. Honestly, we came down second time by a lot of times just because we didn't want to risk getting our car tore up. And on pit road. So the first stop we came in, the first 2 tire stops we came in second time down, and then the third it was a green flag stop. And yeah, I mean tires, no adjustments all day. Actually, just air pressure, good stops all the way around, and I think we were happy with our day overall on pit road. So packing it up and moving forward to Daytona, which we'll both be there, Steven. So I've talked enough already. Well, how about you go ahead and lead us on and let everybody know kind of what to expect with this type of racing, how pit stops kind of change from plate racing, and also kind of what pit road is like and what pit strategy is like at Daytona.
Yeah, I mean, I unfortunately didn't go to Michigan. I stayed back and kind of my son had a race on Saturday, so I was taking care of him there, trying to get him all figured out with his car. But but yeah, I kind of want to touch on Michigan a little bit more. Just to, what did you think of the aero package with the
Oh yeah.
restrictor plate engine BS that they were running in the Xfinity series? What did you think of that? Because like it was almost like pack racing without being pack racing from what I saw on TV, because it was a lot of just like single file and like groups of cars running together.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me honestly of Atlanta, where Atlanta was like that. It was like pack racing, but it was single file and it was like really strung out. That's kind of how it was at Michigan. Like all of the cars were strung, like they were drafting each other, but they were really strung out. And like the top 20 cars were in a group, but it's not like Daytona where they're separated by like half a second. It was like 2 second difference or,
Yeah.
from so there was like a car length that I didn't really even see that much bump drafting or anything like that. And it's supposed to be the same package at Indy. I thought Indy actually was a pretty good race in Xfinity. They were definitely drafting down the front and back stretches, which I heard a lot of complaints in the past. This was my first Indy oval race, but I heard a lot of complaints in the past that cars would just be way strung out and would it wouldn't be very competitive of a race at all. But thought that package at Indy worked pretty well at Michigan. I don't know. I heard a lot of people complaining about it online that they didn't like that package and that it kind of limited the speed. Uh, yeah, I mean, I don't blame him. Michigan has always been known as being the fastest track on the calendar because you're not running a restrictor plate there. You're not running that aero packet, like the intermediate aero package. So I get it. I mean, I understand why fans are upset about it. Um,
Do you think it would have been better if they would have taken the restrictor plates off and just let the cars run unrestricted?
yeah, I'm trying to remember what the racing was like last year. Do you remember what it was like in the Xfinity series last year at Michigan?
I think it was better than what we saw
Yeah,
on Saturday. I really like every time the Xfinity series has been, the greatest show of the weekend for the past couple of years now. And that one kind of just felt like I'm watching on TV and I'm like, I thought I was watching a cup race where everybody was just driving single file. You had 2 second
yeah.
gaps between everybody. It was like, I was like, what am I watching? This ain't Xfinity.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, I think I'd love to have the restrictor plates taken off. I mean, the speeds are higher. I think you're running, you get a lot more line choice. You get a lot more um, dynamic racing, I'll say. Also, like fans want to see the speed. And kind of from what I noticed and what I was hearing at the track and just watching the SMT data that they were showing on the television, like really looked like they were not doing a ton of lifting at all in the
Yeah.
corners. Like they were going in the corner like 178, 179, one maybe 180, and then at like the slowest I saw them at exit of two, they were like 169, 170. So it was like a 10-mile-an-hour difference from. So that tells me that they could have definitely gone faster into that corner and probably had more driver skill would have been taken to like it's not like Talladega or Daytona where you're just flat out the whole time and you're just holding the wheel. Um, but at Michigan, it's always been known for having really high speeds going into 1 and 3, and drivers having to roll the corner at really high speed, and that's kind of where the drivers separate themselves. But
Well, that's how it was for the cup race. The cup race, those guys were going into turn one at like 202, 203. I even saw like 205 going into the corner in the draft. And in the middle of the corner, they're doing like I think it was like 188, 189. So it's like, those guys are flying. And then I looked at the Xfinity race and like they went flat out in qualifying. I was like, you can't go flat out at Michigan in qualifying. Like, it doesn't matter. The car's not going to grip up like that.
yeah,
But when you're only doing 180 miles an hour into the corner, it's like, that's nothing.
yeah. So I mean, I definitely would like to see the high speeds. Would like to see the drivers really take it in their hands and roll the corners with speed and see where it puts them. Run multiple lines, see if the high line works one lap, see if the middle, see if hugging the bottom, diamond, whatever it is. See where that speed is for your car and driving. Driver preference and stuff, and see how it shapes out. But yeah, you're right. It looked like they were all running the same lane. They were all running single file, and yeah, I mean there was some action towards the end because of the overtime stuff, but
Yeah, we can ask Kyle Sieg about that.
yeah, I'm glad he's okay, man. I'm glad.
Did you reach out to him? Because I know I don't have his number, but I know I was gonna shoot him a message and ask him if make sure he was good.
Yeah, I am. I was planning on it, but I was probably in my head I was like, so many people have probably reached out to him that I'll reach out to him either this weekend or send him a message today or tomorrow and be like, hey man, just glad you're okay, you know. So
Yeah, I
um,
mean, I know I'm gonna see him this weekend, so I'll be like, hey man, that was wild, but I'm
yeah,
glad you're good.
I saw his interview with Bob Pockris. He said that was his first time he's ever flipped before. So
I
you know,
believe it.
yeah. So and it's
But I mean,
wild.
we also had that in the cup race.
Yeah, that one was wild. It looked like nobody touched him. He just got sideways and the air just lifted him up.
Yeah, when I was watching it at the shop, I was looking at it and I was watching the replay and I was like, the hood flaps came up, the roof flaps came up, but that diffuser like flap, there's my camera.
Mhm,
That diffuser flap in the center of the diffuser is supposed to come down when the hood or when the roof flap comes up.
uh-huh,
And it's almost like the roof flap came up and the diffuser flap never released to go down.
yeah,
And so that's what I'm not going to say that's why he went airborne, but I don't think that helped his case to not go airborne.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was wild. I mean, he just got sideways and then bam, it was like
It
instantaneous.
would happen instantly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, Kyle's took a little bit more of a nudge and took somebody to get into him to flip, but LaJoy was just like crazy. So yeah, I mean, luckily there's so much runoff there at Michigan. It wasn't terrible, but when you're sliding on your lid and then you hit that grass and it flips you, like I know there's talk about that at Daytona and a couple of the Charlotte. They were wanting to put turf in and take the grass out. Like I don't know if that's going to help the situation. It might, but I yeah. So I definitely know when they both hit that grass, there they did flip, like roll. Um,
Well, I know they had that issue with Ryan Priest last year, and they since went through and took all that grass off the backstretch at Daytona, so that way that doesn't happen again. But
yeah,
I mean, I don't know. I think not having the grass in Corey LaJoy's case and Kyle Sieg's case, the grass was not a factor. The grass was actually what got them back on their
right,
wheels.
right, yeah, no
So
doubt.
I don't
So,
know.
but no, I mean, yeah. So going back to the Xfinity race, and that was always, I'm really glad Kyle's okay. You know, those finishes are exciting, but at the same time, you're always hoping that those guys are okay. And Kyle's normally a really like what's the word I'm looking for? Really like I don't want to say careful, but he's a driver that doesn't wad himself up and he stays out of trouble to the best of his ability. And normally he brings home clean race cars. So um,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
I was sad to see that happen, but it sounds like he's okay. So um,
Yeah, I actually missed the finish, and then I got home and I saw people posting online about it, and I was like, "Oh no, I
yeah,
gotta talk to Kyle this
yeah,
weekend."
I know. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I'm glad he's okay. So
Yeah, me too. I'm glad him and Corey are both okay.
yeah,
You'd hate to see somebody like what happened to Ryan Priest last year. Just scares everybody when somebody goes airborne like that and rolls through the grass and whatnot. You always get afraid of what could happen and what might happen. So it's great to see those guys walk away and everybody be good after that.
yeah, and we're gonna have possibility for some more wild finishes coming up here this week at Daytona on Friday and Saturday. These plate races, especially at Daytona, are always wild. Man, they're
It's
crazy.
I know the cup race is going to be crazy because the cutoff is
Close.
getting super close,
Yep.
and there's only 2 races left till the playoffs start for the Cup Series, and like I said, I do believe there's like 5 races left before the end of the Xfinity regular season. So I know those guys are going to be anybody can win it at Daytona. That's one of those tracks that you know if Joey Gase wins, he's in the playoffs. If If Blaine Perkins wins, he's in the playoffs. If
Right,
Kyle Sieg wins, he's in the play. Like
right.
anybody can win and make the playoffs at
Yeah.
Daytona.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan Sieg put himself in a really good position with winning the stage one at Michigan, but he's like in 12th place. He's at the cutoff. So right now, if the season ended right now, he'd be in the playoffs. But like, I know Ryan's like a really good plate racer, and RSS brings some awesome cars. So Ryan has as good of a chance as anybody to win. But at the same time, like all of a sudden, if somebody who's really hasn't been great all year ends up winning, then that pushes Ryan Sieg out of the playoffs. So, there's a lot riding on these super speedway races, especially with the playoff implications. So, yeah, both races I think are going to be crazy. Um,
Yeah, it's gonna be what you think it's gonna be when you go to Daytona. It's gonna be a drafting track, uh, pack racing. You know, for all 40 cars are gonna be within a second of each other, and one little mistake and you tear up not just your race car, but a lot of race cars.
yeah. Yep. No, I agree, and that's I know we both really like plate racing. I think there's nothing else like it in the world. I think it's the most entertaining type of racing there is, and but it also comes with a lot of consequences, for the drivers as well, but also for team owners and all that. There's a lot of money that goes into running a race at Daytona or Talladega. Potential for a
Yeah.
lot of tore up cars, that's for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You can you think going to the casino you could waste a lot of money. Just go to Daytona Talladega, you can waste a lot of money there too.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, definitely, and it can change a lot of people's season. Like if you win at Daytona, Talladega, they normally have the highest prize money, and it can really set you up, like be incredible for you, or you can end up destroying a car, and it's a big deal, definitely. So a lot riding on that for a lot of the teams, a lot of the playoff implications. Steven, kind of from a pit crew perspective, do you want to talk a little bit about how Daytona is different than some of these other tracks that we go to? The plate racing, pit strategy is different.
So, as far as like the pit crew side, it always you always go into Daytona, Talladega, Atlanta now, but mainly Daytona, Talladega. You have a plan, and your plan is we are going to pit with, you know, nowadays it's if you're a Ford, you pit with the Fords. If you're a Chevy, you pit with the Chevys, and the Toyotas pit with the Toyotas. And they all know what lap is the last lap that they want to pit on. The last time they want to come to pit road is that's the mark that everybody's trying to get to. And the crew chiefs know it. They let the teams know. The pit crew guys are always ready. It's a lot of either waiting on fuel or taking fuel only. There's not a lot of tire wear at Daytona, so you could do 2 tires. You could do right sides, you could do left sides. Like it, you could pretty much do whatever at Daytona because the only thing that really matters is having enough fuel to get to the end of the race. So
Yeah,
you always got to be ready for anything, and it always helps when your crew chief tells you like, "Hey, we're pitting all the Fords are pitting on X lap, or all the Chevys are pitting on X lap, or like we're gonna pit with the Chevys even though we're a Ford, or like it's like, oh, okay, well,
yeah,
excuse me, like
yeah,
you throw that wrench in there and try to go off strategy just a little bit from everybody else, and you know you you basically you don't want to pit by yourself. That's basically what it boils down to. If you pit by yourself, you throw your whole race away because you're going to end up going a lap down. The pack runs so much faster than a single car by himself. You need at least 4 cars to stay in a draft and be mildly fast to
yeah,
be able to keep up with that pack and not go a lap down.
yeah. Yeah, Daytona actually and Talladega actually have some pretty exciting pit strategies. As I got into NASCAR not necessarily knowing a ton about the sport, and so I was like, well, Daytona's the fastest track, speeds are super high. there's got to be a lot of tire wear, but it's like the exact opposite, because you're never hitting the brake, you're never turning the wheel super aggressively, you're just guiding it. And so because of that, there's hardly any tire wear. So you're right, depending on what it is, if you're coming down on a stage brake, you're most likely going to take tires. Right sides mainly, probably the first stage, you might take right sides. Then if it's a green flag stop, it's going to be fuel for sure, but there's a possibility like you might take left sides, you might do fuel only, you might wait for a caution or a stage break to do left sides or 4 tires or something like that. But tires are not a big deal at Daytona at all. But what is, like what Steven said, is on the pit road side of things, especially under a green flag, like can't if you're changing tires, you can't have any penalties. You like that goes for the driver too. Like if you're too fast getting on pit road or exiting pit road and you have a drive through, that completely messes up your race. If you have a uncontrolled tire penalty or you don't get the lug nuts tied or something like that, that's preventable and you have to come back down, like that's your whole race. You might get lucky and get the lucky dog, or there might be a quick caution and you might be lucky to stay on the lead lap. But, you know, from my perspective, the whole thing about plate races and particularly Daytonas is getting the job done, what you're asked for. It doesn't have to be fast because track position really does not matter, especially for the first 3/4 of the race. Track position doesn't matter at all. In fact, a lot of teams will prefer, like I've had this happen before. We had a fast pit stop or other teams took 4 tires. We only took 2 or fuel only. And we got up to like the middle of the pack and our team was like, we do not want to be here. So as soon as the green flag flew, we drop back and we settle into the back of the pack just to preserve our car and be there at the end. So this is one of the tracks where track position does not matter for the most part. It's one of these tracks where tires do not matter for the most part. But really the pressure is on to a certain extent just to be clean. Like that's the name of the game. Be clean, get the lug nuts tight, don't have any penalties, especially on green flag stops. And it's especially a big race for the fuelers, the gas men. It's basically all on them. If you nod and say the car's full and it's not full and you run out of gas, it's a bad day. So yes, that's how I kind of see it.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. The fuelers, anytime you talk about going super speedway racing, you look at the fueler and you're like, well, bud, it's all on you. Like,
Yeah.
good luck. But now, when it comes to Daytona and Talladega more than Atlanta, Atlanta's a drafting track. Yes, I get it. But their pit road entrance starts on the backstretch. Daytona, Talladega, it starts at the entrance to pit road. And especially when it comes to a green flag pit stop, it can be the coolest to watch, but the most dangerous to be a part of, because you can have that you've got 10, 15 cars going 200 miles an hour off at turn 4, and in you know like 3 football fields worth, they have to slow down to 60 miles an hour. And you've got all these cars funneling down to a 2-lane road to go 60 miles an hour. Somebody could lock the brakes up. Like, you gotta, when you're coming down pit road, or even when you're not coming down pit road, you have to be ready for anything. If anybody slides, anybody wrecks somebody else coming on a pit road, like, cars just go everywhere. And when somebody's out of control, they're out of control because they're trying to get down to 60 miles an hour. And it can be terrible.
Yeah, another thing to think about too is, when you're at Daytona or Talladega, you're not on the brakes at all. You are running the whole lap wide open, or if you're in the draft, 80% open, 3/4 throttle. But you're definitely not hitting the brakes unless you have to check up. But so a thing on that point is, if you have a green flag stop, a lot of these guys, the inexperienced drivers, might not get their brakes warm, and then they try and apply the brake for the first time in 20 laps, and they lock it up or something happens, or they do get down to pit road speed, but then their brakes are cold and they slide through the pit box because they don't stop.
Mhm.
So it can actually be pretty dangerous. I mean, especially too, like they're coming quick down pit road, 60 miles an hour. If you don't know what 60 miles an hour looks like come to pit road.
90% of people do that on the interstate.
Right. Come to Daytona on pit road and have your back turned to 20 cars trying to come in their stall at 60 miles an hour and see how that is. So
Yeah. I mean, another part of it too is like to add on to what Johnny was saying is like the setup wise, it's you're full out the whole time around the racetrack. You're full throttle, not using any brake. So they don't use very big brake packages like they would at like a Martinsville or a Bristol or a Richmond, where they have to use a lot of brakes. So they use a very small brake package so that way they can, use that weight somewhere else in the car. And so when you're trying to get down from 200 to 0, basically, it's
yeah.
you got to make sure that brakes work.
Yeah, and that's where it takes like an experienced driver, warming those brakes up the lap before, getting on the brakes a little bit, warming up, getting some heat in them, so that way you don't come sliding in, or like we were talking about, if you have a pit road penalty where you're trying to get down but you slide through and you come through the timing line at 80 miles an hour, well then doesn't matter what happens on your pit stop, you're having to come back again. So
Yep.
yeah, I mean, those green flag stops are always crazy. As a tire changer, it's less crazy for us because most of the time it's fuel only, but there are some times we're taking right sides. And on that, it's just be clean. And so I know me and you did the Daytona 500 last year with Jimmy Johnson in the 84 car. We did the duels. I know a big part of our strategy was just be clean, and on the green flag stops, like just as long as we make it out in that pack on the draft, as long as we're not losing the draft in a green flag stop, we consider it a good, that was a good pit stop for us.
Yeah, I mean, when we had our team meeting for with oh, I had his name and then I lost it.
Good.
Yeah, Todd Gordon. He told us straight up. He was like, "Look," he said, "the most important part for you pit crew guys is just we don't want to lose the draft. We cannot lose the draft. If we lose the draft, our whole race is over." So when we came down, anytime we came down pit road, our goal was to make sure that we stayed in the draft. It
Yes.
didn't matter if we came in the front and then left in the middle of the pack. We still were in the pack. Like, don't
Yeah.
be that last car off pit road because you don't know if you're going to get up to speed in time.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a little close for us, honestly, in the duels. Our whole plan in the duels, since we already qualified in, was just to be kind of in the back, not tear up a car. Like we knew we were pretty fast, so we didn't need to win the duels to get in. So we were like towards the back, and all these other cars took fuel only, but it was our strategy, and I think it was a good plan from Todd Gordon. It was basically all of our first Cup races, and it was good to we decided to do right side tires and get one stop under our belts. But I remember we were like pretty close to the tail end of that pack. There were a few cars behind us, but it was like a lot of these cars, we probably were a second longer in the box, and we were already towards the back coming down pit road. So we made it out and we were in the draft, but also like that's something you have to consider too. Like some fans might be like, well, why don't they take four tires? And it's like, well, if you do, you're losing. It doesn't matter if you have tires, two tires or no old tires in the draft is going to be 3 seconds faster than fresh tires by yourself.
Yep.
So that's what people should understand when they watch the pit strategy and see why is the team only taking right side tires, or why is the team only taking lefts, or why is the team only doing gas only, quick gas and go. Well, it's because especially under green flag stop, that's all. If you have a caution, you come under yellow, yeah, take tires, whatever. But under green, it's a whole different piece. So.
Yeah. So I mean, those are the dangers of Daytona's pit road. And then we do that for Friday and Saturday, and then we go to a completely different racetrack on Sunday for the truck race and pit at Milwaukee.
Yeah.
So what do you think of we've been there one time, and what do you think of the pit road for Milwaukee?
Yeah, it's funny because they are like two completely different tracks. One thing I do want to hit on real quick about Daytona is, as a pit crew, you're also always ready for damage. So you have all of your
Oh yeah, oh my god. I don't want to talk about damage.
yeah, I know we've had it. We had it in ARCA race. We've had it some in the truck series, but yeah, you're always ready for damage. You have all your equipment, all your tools, all your bear bond, which is this tape that we put on. Everything's always ready because you just need to assume that some part of your car is probably going to get beat up. And if you make it through, no damage, that's a great race. But so damage is really important, especially in the front nose. Like, you have to get that taped up really well, because if you just have
Arrow.
if you have a big hole in your front nose, it's like, at a short track, it'd be like, fine, whatever. We're gonna. But at Daytona, if you get like it's just like, imagine you have like a kite just on the side of your car now, and all that air is just slowing you down and everybody else. So that's the last point I'll make about Daytona pit strategy. But yeah, it's two completely different tracks. Daytona pit road is long, it's straight, it's really wide. The pit boxes are big, they're really nice condition. Everything is newly paved, nice. Probably the best pit road we go on all year, in my opinion.
I
In
think
terms of
so.
that, Pocono and Talladega probably, but I would say Daytona is probably the nicest. And then you go to Milwaukee, which is like the oldest track in the world, and one of the oldest racetracks in the world. And it looks like it a little bit. It's been a while since they've repaved pit road at the very least. And I think the track too, tracks, kind of bumpy, and there's a bunch of stuff that the drivers have to deal with, cracks and bumps and all sorts of stuff unsettling the car. Well, that's kind of the same way on pit road. Like, I remember there was a big crack in the middle of our box when we were pitting for Raja Caruth last year. And our jack guy was like, well, if my wheel gets stuck in there on the jack, then it's going to be bad, So the wall is like really thick too. It's like super thick and just kind of a weird shape and not necessarily even all the way throughout. And I remember it was like slanted a little bit.
It even goes downhill. Like at the exit of pit road is like the first couple of pit stalls are downhill.
Yeah, it goes downhill and it curves around turn 1 and 2. It's a really like wonky, really difficult pit road, and it's short track racing on a truck. So it's really, really different setup and really different pit strategy, really different pit road. Like, probably,
The pit stalls. Dude, the pit stalls are the smallest pit stalls I've ever seen in my life.
yeah, those in IRP are for sure the smallest, I think. Yeah, Milwaukee is super small. It's like, I remember looking at it, I was like, can we fit a truck in here? Like, it's like literally like you have like this much room to get in and out. And
Yeah, like last year when we pit for Grant, like I was so happy and thankful that we had like a badass truck there and led almost every lap, because I'm not joking, all 3 pit stops we did, he had to back up because he just pulled just inches too far and had to back up to get out of his box. But oh man, it was terrible the whole race, and they were mad at us on pit road, and I'm like, I don't know what you want us to do. Like,
yeah, no, I remember the same thing. Raja came in, he had to skew his back end out and all sorts of stuff, man. It was like, it's really tough to get in there, especially if somebody's already in the box in front of you. It's really hard to set yourself up to get out of pit road, out of your box, as fast as you can if there's a truck that's going to be right in front of you as well. It's just a really, really tough pit road from a driver's perspective, from a pit road perspective, from just everything. Like, it's a tough track, and it's a lot different than Daytona, where it's like, at Daytona it's all about fuel and not tires. While at Milwaukee it's all about tires and not really about fuel. So yeah, a lot of, it's like really like about as different as 2 pit roads and 2 tracks could be.
Yeah. The other thing too is like, so this Milwaukee, like I said in the beginning, Milwaukee starts the playoffs. So if you have a playoff driver around you, your crew chief is always, he doesn't have to, but he'll always take into consideration the playoff driver, because if your team was in that situation, you'd want them to do the same for you. So if you're running, 20th last car on the lead lap, you're going to be like, okay, I got a playoff driver behind me, so I'm going to stay out and pit second time by to allow them to get a clean pit stop, so we
Right.
don't interfere with them and their race and what they got going on. So it's always one of those things that you like have in the back of your mind, and you have to like, there's only 10 of them out there, so you need to make sure you know who's who.
Yeah, so on like a Daytona setup on an Xfinity car, there's like no camber. So camber is like positively correlated. I want to say that's the word, basically to banking. So the more banking there is, the less camber there is. Maybe that's inversely, but basically, whatever the more camber there is, the more banking there is, the less camber there is. So at Daytona, there's not going to be a lot of camber. Even on an Xfinity car, there's always less camber on an Xfinity car than a truck. You go to Milwaukee, it's like 9% on the turns and like 2% on the straights. It's pretty flat. So you're going to have like 13 and a half, 14% camber on the left front. You're going to have big brake package. I'm going to try and pull up the video of our stop with Raja, because there's so much brake dust on the right front that you can't even see the lug nuts. And when he stops, this whole cloud of brake dust comes in your face. So I'm going to find that video real quick and share my screen so I can just show the viewers kind of what that looks like. But yeah, Steven, if you could talk a little bit about kind of for a second here, I need to. No.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, like we always say it, on the rears, I don't have to worry about any of that. I go out there, tires straight up and down. The only thing I need to know is whether or not, especially on the truck, whether uh, it's pushed either to the front of the wheel well or the back of the wheel well, whether the axle is skewed one way or the other. But other than that, I just go out there, I do my thing. Johnny's got to worry about all the camber and the brake dust and all that stuff that I don't need to worry about. But it can definitely like hinder the pit stop a lot. And it basically makes it to where it's all basically dependent on that front changer and how well he can get those lug nuts off. And I've seen it before. I've been a part of it. I've done it where you pull that trigger to hit that first lug nut, you can see it, and then you can't see it anymore because the brake just goes everywhere.
So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen, and I'll show you what we're talking about with brake dust, where you're using so much brake at Milwaukee because it's a mile long, basically flat track type. It has short track characteristics like a Martinsville, North Wilkesboro, somewhere flat and a short track, but it actually is like has pretty long straightaways. So you get a decent amount of speed, and then you're hitting the brake hard, and then you're getting speed, and you're hitting the brake. So you use a lot of brakes here at this track. So I'm going to present here and show my screen and show you exactly what I'm talking about when we talk about going to Milwaukee. So can you see it?
Yeah, I got you.
So we're going to go ahead and show kind of what it's talking about. Right up here.
Oh my god.
So we're going to show another one here. I'm going to pause it at the right time. And right there, see if
Oh
you
man.
tell me if you can see any lug nuts.
Dude, all I see is just black. Everything is black inside there.
So imagine what I see when I'm like, what I'm thinking right here. I'm like, oh God, this is gonna be a lot of fun. So yeah, that's what we're talking about when we talk about brake dust. At Daytona, you're not having any brake dust. the wheels are not hot, and it comes out. So, but yeah, I mean, even there, like I can't even see. I know there's a shadow, but I can't even see. Those are supposed to be bright yellow. They look
I
completely.
can barely see the 1 o'clock lug nut.
Yeah. So you're basically guessing. Couple, and it kind of clears it all up. But yeah, that's Milwaukee for you. It has a lot of brake dust, and it's definitely a different beast than Daytona for sure.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I kind of don't understand why we go from super speedway pack racing for Xfinity and then 1 mile short track oval for truck, and it's like all in the same weekend.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. I want to pit at every racetrack. I don't want to miss a race. Like when they raced at Portland, I wanted to be there.
Yeah.
When they raced at Mid Ohio, I wanted to be there. Like, I don't ever want to not pit a race, but like, let's all just go to the same spot.
Well, that was the thing I was talking to. I was like, we're in Michigan. Why don't we do it this week? Why don't we have Xfinity on Friday, Cup on Saturday, and then we go to Milwaukee on Sunday? But the Daytona to Milwaukee, and it's not like, so for the fans who are listening and kind of figuring out how travel works, it's not going to be easy travel. We'll put it that way.
No.
So we're flying chartered planes out of Salisbury Friday morning to get down to Daytona. Friday afternoon, probably noon or 1 o'clock. Get down and do the Xfinity race. So I am. I know we didn't talk about it a ton, but I'm going to be doing the Cup race at Daytona this weekend for the 44 Cup car for New York Racing. So we're going to stay Saturday. The race is at 7:30 Saturday night. So we're doing the race. Let's say it gets done at 10:30. Let's say we load up and get on the plane by midnight. Maybe we'll take off by 11:30 midnight, and then we land back in Charlotte at 1:30 in the morning, and then we're
Back on the plane.
driving back home. And we have a 7:30 flight to Milwaukee in the morning. So, and I'm doing the
Might as well
ARCA,
just sleep in your car.
and I'm doing the ARCA and truck races. So yeah, it's gonna be a lot, and it's like you don't get any sleep. Maybe Friday night for the Xfinity race, but maybe
I
sleep.
thought it was rough doing 2 races this weekend. You're doing 4. Like, trooper.
Yeah, and the funny thing about it is, so it's like I'm flying on a Victory, which is a private chartered service for a lot of the NASCAR teams, and then I'm flying on a Stewart-Haas plane back, and Stewart-Haas flies into a different airport than the Victory flight.
Oh, no, they fly. Oh my gosh.
So I'm gonna park up in Salisbury, which is about 45 minutes from where I live, and then we're gonna land in Concord, which is like conveniently 5 minutes away from where I live, but my car is gonna be up in Salisbury, so I'm gonna have to have somebody drive me up 6 in the morning the next day to my car. So yeah, there's like some logistical stuff that goes into it, but I'm just lucky that I'm able to do it, and for the most part, once you get on the planes, it's smooth sailing, and you don't have to worry about anything. But not going to be
Be a pit crew member, they said. It'll be fun, they said.
Yeah, definitely. So I don't know. I was like, if we started the Cup race at 6 p.m., that would be amazing. But we're starting at 7:30. It's not going to get done until 10:30. We're not going to be out of there. Luckily, we fly right into the Daytona International Airport, or that's like right near like literally right beside the track.
Right outside.
But even still, like we have road crew guys, we have drivers, we have all sorts of stuff on our flight back for Stewart-Haas. So those guys have to wait till the hauler door closes. The drivers have to do their post-race interviews. They have to do all this stuff. So like,
Yep.
it's not just like, oh, cool, we got done at 10:30. The airport's right there. We're going to be on the air by 11. It's like, no, you got to wait till everybody gets there.
And then if one of them goes to victory lane, oh god.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. So, but I'm excited for it. It'll be fun, I think.
Yeah, you're gonna have a blast. No, seriously though, you will have a blast. Like it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. And yeah, I mean, I like Milwaukee. I think the track is pretty cool, honestly. It's like really historic. It's kind of like there's like in a residential area, there's like houses right near there. It's
Yep.
Last year was our first time going there, both of us, and we always like going to new tracks. Like I like it. I wish we would race there every year. I don't know if it's ideal that we go from Daytona to Milwaukee in the same weekend, but that's how it is. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I think the to get in, if I remember correctly, to get into the racetrack, you have to like go around like through the like it was almost like the fair was going on, and we had to like go through there, and then we could go underneath the grandstands.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like it's actually connected to the Wisconsin State Fairgrounds. So there was like a bunch of it was like literally like the state fair was going on, and it
Yeah.
was like a wild atmosphere. And there's like normally we have food catered for us for there's like tents that we go to, but they're not there. So I remember last year they were like our team at GMS was like, yeah, get anything at the concession stand. We got a tab or whatever. And so I got like a couple brats and stuff. So there.
Just pigging out.
Yeah, we're in the Midwest, man. Got to get brought before the race. I was like, it was good. I mean, it's a cool place. I like it. Yeah, I think the racing is pretty good there, actually.
I thought it was really good last year. I thought it was a great race.
Definitely a driver's track, which I think we all can appreciate, especially in the playoffs for the Truck Series. Like, those are the tracks we should be having, the tracks that really show who's the best of the best. I think Milwaukee is a great example of that. So yeah, I'm glad we're going there. It'll just be it's always yeah. And from what we heard, if I remember correctly, I remember we asked in our like preseason meeting, we got the schedules and we're like, so are we pitting Milwaukee? And they were like, no, we're not. And then like 2 months before the race, it was like, yeah, we are pitting Milwaukee.
Oh, by the way.
So like, oh, okay. Yeah,
It's going to be a great weekend, though. I mean, a lot of great racing when it comes to, your super speedway drafting track for the Xfinity Series, for the Cup Series, and then you go, 1 mile short track oval for trucks. A lot of beating and banging going on there. It's going to be great.
Yeah, definitely will. And like, it'll be weird. I've done it a few times last year, but going from 5 lug to single lug in the same weekend as a changer is pretty interesting. Like it's change. You're going one day you're doing 5 lug, then you're doing single lug, then you're doing 5 lug again, and like you're gonna be pitting like me and you. I mean, we're gonna be pitting like even pitting in the same week, like a truck and Xfinity car is a lot like different sometimes for sure. But even like doing it at 2 different tracks where the setups are completely different. But like for me this weekend, I'm gonna pit literally every car, every vehicle right now. So it's like it's everything's different, An ARCA car is different than an Xfinity car. A Cup car is different than everything else. A truck is in its own world a lot of times. So even though that they might all have 5 lug nuts or single lug is really different, but they're all different. The strategy is different. The way you do pit stops is different. Your mindset is different.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna be challenging.
Yeah.
It'll be as difficult mentally, I think, as it will physically. Like being able to be locked in at all the races and have good pit IQ for the.
You got to be mentally strong, Johnny. As you're talking about it, I can see you like dreading it, and you're like, when you think about it, you're like, oh, I really don't want to do
That's
this. And then
probably really strong.
then you get done with it, and you're like, oh, that wasn't that bad.
No, last year wasn't bad. We got spotted
No,
cow
it was
beer.
a lot of fun last year.
That was a lot of fun. I liked it. I like spotted cow.
Exactly.
Long way back. Yeah, so it'll be good. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great weekend. Playoff start for the trucks, so that's gonna be great. Couple races left to the playoffs for Cup and Xfinity, so keep your eyes peeled on your favorite drivers there, and hopefully everybody wants to make it makes it. But I can tell you they're not.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this is the thing too. I mean, it's like for us, realistically, like anybody has a chance to win at Daytona this year. I think for Xfinity, I could see 20. If you told me 20 different cars, if you lined up 20 cars and you're like, any one of these cars could win, I would believe you. I would be like, okay. You know, Jeremy Clemens won last 2 years ago, and Timmy Hill was in second place in an NBM card. Jeb Burton won last year at Talladega. I mean, we were in second place going into the Tri-Oval at Talladega this year for Joey Gase. Like anybody can win that race. Anybody can win in the Cup Series race too. Like I wouldn't be surprised if there's some playoff spoiler who nobody has talked about making the playoffs because they're 50 points behind and then they end up winning, and then your favorite driver who was in 16th place is going to be having to fight and scratch and claw and find a way into the playoffs. So, yeah, it's it'll be a lot of excitement for sure. And I think, there's going to be a lot of drivers racing really aggressively in both and all three series. And that's the way the fans want the racing. That's the way we like the racing,
I wouldn't have it any other way.
Right. So, I mean, we talked about being ready for damage for Daytona. You're going to have to be ready for damage at Milwaukee too. I remember we had damage with Raja last year, and we had to fix some stuff. And it's like definitely get some damage. Your front nose, your right rear, all that kind of stuff. So,
yep, it's definitely going to be a wild weekend. Definitely going to be eventful, and thankfully, all you guys watching and listening can sit back and enjoy the show.
Exactly. Yep. Yep. Well, Steven, do you have anything to say before we wrap up here?
No, I just appreciate everybody for sticking with it. I know we had that couple of weeks that we were off, but now we're back. We're gonna be regularly putting these out, so I hope everybody's enjoying them, and hopefully everybody can give us some feedback on it and let us know what they like, what they don't like, what they want to see more of, whatnot, and yeah.
Yeah, we're going to be trying some new things. I think we're going to be doing some stuff that I think you guys will find interesting. And like I said, we'll continue to have guests on and who share their experiences and give different perspectives. So, each episode is going to be different, let alone we talk about whatever track it is the next week. But, it's always going to be something different here. So always stay tuned. And I think we're going to have a lot of interesting stuff coming up. So I'm excited for it, Steven.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's always going to be interesting with the playoffs going on and whatnot. So hopefully it's exciting, and hopefully you guys are enjoying it.
No, I know I am for sure. And yeah, man. So we'll see. I guess Steven will be next Monday. So we're going to start trying to put them out every Monday is our plan, or record at least every Monday and have them out either the day or two after. So I'll be tuning in around this time every week, and we'll be pumping them out.
Yeah. So yeah, we got Daytona, Milwaukee. So Truck, Xfinity, and Cup all back in action. So you guys sit back, enjoy the show, and we'll put on a good one. But Johnny, I will see you at Daytona, and everyone else, I will catch you in the next one. Till then, you guys be good.